in family law, there are no winners. Every case is vastly different than every other case. It's not like a cookie cutter where everyone's exactly the same. And here's what you get with me, Miss Client. You're going to get someone who's going to return every one of your phone calls as quickly as I can. You're going to get someone who responds. You're going to get someone who fights for you. You're going to get someone who's going to tell you the truth, even if it's like hard to hear. You don't want to hear that. And you're going to get someone who's going to push your case through. And with me, because I do fixed fee, is I'm on the same side of the table with you. Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share the straight truth on how we have rapidly grown our family law practice from 0 to 25 attorneys and over $15 million in revenue. And my purpose here is to document what's working and not working with hopes that you can take that, recontextualize that for your practice and shorten your success curve. This is the third installment of something I'm calling the Tom's Trek. But it's the journey. We're documenting the journey of Tom Hartin, an attorney in Long Island who is starting his family law practice. So Tom is back with us again today to kind of give us an update and talk about marketing and what he's doing with his firm. So to give everyone context, Tom and I were together for this podcast back on May the 8th. And today, as we're sitting here, it's June the 14th. So we're talking about 5 weeks later. A lot has happened in your journey, Tom. So start by just filling in the gaps between May 8th and today.
Thank you for having me on again, Jeff. Always awesome to be on. So yeah, like you mentioned, we talked May 8th, and at that point, I had a lot of interest in starting a family law firm. I was 90% sure I was going to go through with it. I think I mentioned last time I had some issues like getting health insurance for my kids and all that stuff with, financials mostly that were preventing me from launching right away. So I, at that point, was kind of unsure, and I forget the exact timeline, but I also was either I had just started building a website or I was just in contact with someone about starting to build a website. So I'm pretty sure that that's where we left off. And in that short 5-week time frame, I now have a website up and running. I have
What's the URL on that?
Is hartinfamilylaw.com.
I haven't seen it yet, so you keep talking. I'll look it up here.
Yeah, really, really great website. It was somebody you had in your podcast previously, Paul with Honorable Marketing, did a really fabulous job on the website. So that is up and running. My Google My Business profile is up and running. I'm in the process of getting reviews and getting some of my pages ranked. So if you were to search me organically, I'm probably not coming up yet, but I think that could probably improve significantly within only a few weeks or a month or two tops. And then
I'm looking at your site right now, Tom. It does look really good, and I know it's still being produced. So let's put that caveat out there. I would encourage you to get as much original photography as possible. You have a lot of stock on here, and it's probably placeholder stock photography right now, but if you can, try to get original in places where it's appropriate. It makes people feel real more connected to you.
So what do you mean by that?
Photography that you have of you and pictures of you, pictures of your local county courthouses, for example. I know you can't, you're showing families and stuff like here, that's going to have to probably remain stock photography.
Yeah.
But you have a handshake here and, have a picture of you with shaking your hand of a client, someone that looks like a client, stuff like that. It's a little more work on the front end, but even an iPhone pictures that's not as professionally produced is better than a professionally produced stock photography. It just, people connect with that more. It's just the way we're wired. It's more authentic.
Appreciate that.
As much as you can.
Okay. I do have, if you click on the About section, there is a photo of me, but it's just like a bio photo. And I think I was a few years younger. So
I don't know, you're pretty young now. So yeah.
So anyway, so there's that. There's Google My Business profile up and running. We're getting started on SEO, search engine optimization. I'm gonna start doing a little bit of personal marketing on Long Island. Haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm thinking maybe meeting with some other attorneys in other practice areas, maybe estate planners or non-attorney financial planners. Could be good referral sources. Maybe some attorneys that don't practice family law, maybe personal injury lawyers or other types like that, would be willing to send me cases whether there are referral fees or not. I don't quite understand how that all works yet, but that it will be learning in progress. And then I have...
So let's pause there if you can. I want to go back to your website. So from the day you contracted with Paul until today, how long was that, to give people a sense for the time it takes to get these sites developed?
I think right around the time we last spoke, I signed the
Okay.
contract like a couple days before that or a couple days after that. So probably
Okay.
right around 5 weeks.
And what did it cost you to have your site produced to get it ready to go?
It was, the exact number was either like 3,000 or 3,500. And
Okay.
I'll say that was very cheap. I had reached out to one other company before I listened to your podcast with Paul, and I think the quote was like 12,000 or something like that.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a simple site, that's a really reasonable price that you got
Yeah.
from Paul. And I have no financial interest in Paul's business whatsoever. He was just a guest on my show. What kind of work did you have to do to get your site ready on your end, like content production, putting that together? What all was involved?
No, so most of the content production was done by not Paul himself, but someone. Her name's Heidi, Paul on Paul's team, and it was editing, providing feedback and giving general ideas of like the type of content I'd like to have on there. So that for the initial articles and posts, that was all them. I am going into it now and starting to edit some things, not only making sure things are like legally accurate, which I did that on, up front, but maybe adding more information or, I think in terms of new articles, that's probably going to be a hybrid. I think they're, for the SEO strategy, they're going to publish like 5 articles a month, and maybe I want to get that number to 10. So maybe half are written by them and half are written by me. And I think they did a really good job. I think in the beginning, the first one I had like fairly heavy edits. The second one, there was some edits, and once we got moving, the edits were, they definitely learned from my feedback, and the edits were very minor from that point going forward.
Yeah.
And it's, the way they set it up is I can directly edit the site myself. So I can pull up the website, I'm in editor mode, and if I'm like, nice. Oh, this looks like something that came off the internet rather than in, my voice, I can make changes to that.
Cool. Yeah, it looks really nice.
One of the other things we were just talking about right before the call is the competition in my area. So the place where my office is and where I live, there are surprisingly few family law attorneys, or at least attorneys that solely practice family law. I've seen a few, like, you're talking general practice attorneys. There's a little bit more, but attorneys that specifically focus on family law, there's surprisingly few. And these are pretty highly populated areas. I think Long Island, between just Nassau and Suffolk County, has just shy of 3 million people on it. So I'm looking at targeting like between 6 and 8 like towns specifically to get started. And so when I looked at the town where my office is, which is in Massapequa, New York, there was like one other divorce lawyer, and we're talking a fairly populated, like middle to upper middle class neighborhood. So that surprised me. I thought the competition was going to be a lot higher. And when I did look, I was a little selective in where I put my office, because when I looked on the North Shore of Long Island, which typically is where like there's a lot more money on the North Shore of Long Island. That's referred to as the Gold Coast. There was a lot of divorce lawyers up there. And actually I found that was like the first office space I found, and it was cheaper. But I decided to go pay a little bit more for the office space, because I know location plays a, depending on who you ask, like a either minor or significant part in, people searching for, if someone types in, divorce lawyer near me, and they live in Massapequa or one of the towns next to it, I have a better chance of coming up if my office is in that space, even if, I don't know exactly how that works, but if it's like a balance between, the content on my website versus my location. So I decided to go there where there was much less competition. So hopefully.
We've got 20 plus locations, as you know, and so I know a little bit about how location works for family law. So there's 2 factors to consider here. One is, what does Google think about your location? This isn't my area of expertise, but I know that there are algorithms that they use, obviously, that determines placement whenever they present ads. And location to the searcher, location to the city center, all matters. So there's one factor there. The other factor is that clients will only drive so far to go to a location. And I can't begin to tell you what that break point is for your area, but like where in our areas that we serve, if you go north of Milwaukee, you go way up in the smaller towns, like hour and a half, 2 to 3 hours away from Milwaukee, you're going to find that people will drive much further than they'll drive in Milwaukee or in Chicago or Naperville, Illinois, and that sort of thing. They'll drive a shorter distance there. So you would think that there'd be the inverse of that, right? But it's not. So all that factors into, given your condensed area of population, it's probably shorter that they will tolerate a drive. So FYI, that's just my experience in watching how it's developed for us.
Yeah, that's interesting. And one of the other things I was looking at is that a lot of attorneys seem to have offices near the courthouse, which they think I guess they think that's convenient for clients, right? If my office is 5 minutes.
Convenient for the attorney.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly
it's not for the client.
The client's going to be coming to my office more frequently than they're going to be going to court, hopefully. So my office is actually I'm kind of targeting 2 counties, probably halfway in between the 2 courthouses. And so probably somewhere in the order of 20, 25 minutes from each courthouse. So I don't think that's too onerous of a drive. And, most of the areas I'm targeting, I'll hopefully be within a 10, 15-minute drive. So
none of our offices are located near the courthouse. We didn't use that as a factor whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's
we use client proximity as the factor. Just what I've experienced. I agree with you. Just go where the clients are, and then you can drive to the courthouse.
Right. See, on Long Island, that's not a factor because there's clients everywhere. It's fairly densely populated. So my main factor was how much competition is in a particular neighborhood, and is it a neighborhood that has the target clients that I'm going after.
Right.
Again, I'm not targeting rich, the uber wealthy clients, but middle to upper middle class clients, which is most of the towns on Long Island.
Yeah.
And there was not, like I said, a surprisingly few amount of divorce attorneys in that area. So
talk us through your lease. What was your lease? What are the lease terms? How much are you paying? How long is it?
So it's month to month. I paid a little bit. It was $100 a month more to go month to month, but I don't know. I had reasons that I thought at the time it's just easier for me to do. The rent is $1,200 a month, which in my opinion, not that bad. I actually was expecting things to be a lot higher when I first started. I don't know how that sounds to you, but I don't know. Long Island real estate is really expensive.
How much square footage do you have?
It is, I don't know the exact square footage. It's probably somewhere between 250 and 300.
Okay.
It's a decent sized office. Not huge.
So it's just a one office. It's not 2 offices.
It is. Nope. Yeah, it's a single person office, and it's mine. Okay. I know there are difficulties with SEO when people try to do co-working locations or even a shared office space. This is my office. I have the only key to it. I'm gonna have a sign on my office that's Hartin family law, and that make things, like you said before, that makes things easier for Google verification.
Yeah. I'll talk you through how to get Google verified for your map listings and
not yet. I don't have the office until July 1st. So I'm listed.
What we do a lot, Tom, is that when we've already signed the lease, we'll go to the landlord and say, hey, can I go ahead and put up a sign, take some pictures?
Yep, I've talked to them about that.
And have access to the mail, because you got to get the card when it comes from Google to verify it's yours. So we do that all the time. We'll actually work that into our lease agreements where we'll get 3 or 4 month advance access for that. So the day we open, we've already got Google cred in the map listings, because the map listings are, as I told you last time, is very, very important to us.
Yeah, and I think if I don't know, I was looking around a little bit this morning. I don't think you even have to wait for the card anymore. I think I can log in and I can click video verify, and I can send them a video from my office with a sign. And they kind of do it pretty instantly. I could be wrong.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to talk to Paul about that. But that's, so I don't know, I hope so. And so just to back up, I don't have the physical office until July 1st. I did a virtual office for the month of June. So if Google does send me mail, I can get into the office and get my mail. And same thing to you. I don't have anything in writing, but I did speak to there's nobody in the office currently. If Google says, we need you to verify now, I can walk in there with a sign and take a video of myself.
Okay. One other point here on that, as you put that address into different listings, or as Paul and his team, Paul's probably doing this already, but if you do any of this, make sure your address is exactly the same everywhere you put it.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So if you spell out the word, if it's on East Wisconsin, where my office is, for example, spell out the word East, or don't spell it out, but use E. So whatever you do the same everywhere. That way Google recognizes that as the same place. So there's not confusion or delay in the algorithm.
Yes. And probably a better question for Paul, but I have you here. Does that work the same with phone numbers? So question, I haven't gotten a business phone number yet. That's something I need to do within the next few weeks. So as of right now, my cell phone is listed on the website, which I obviously don't want long term. If I change my phone number on the website in 3 weeks, is that going to negatively impact my ranking?
I can't tell you. That's a question for Paul. I don't know.
It's something I shouldn't even ask. I should just go get the number because I'm going to need it anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the less time that my cell phone number is listed on the website, the better, I think.
Yeah. Get a number that you can own too, that you can point it wherever you want to point it to. Because
Oh
hopefully
yeah,
you'll pointing it to a whole bank of call.
hopefully.
Yeah.
So in terms of things to talk about, I think so I have like SEO and kind of digital marketing covered with Paul. So one thing that would be great to talk about is like, what other recommendations do you have?
Let's review what Paul's doing for you, so I understand fully what initiatives you have underway. So walk through the different channels Paul's supporting you on to get your website out there and get your story told.
Sure. So I think the website currently has 30 pages, and the overall SEO strategy, I think, is to add a minimum of 5 and probably closer to 10 like new content pages. No, actually, I think it's even significantly higher than that. Whatever, we're gonna be adding, new pages each week, possibly even every day, to just increase my web presence. He is creating me Facebook and Instagram profiles, and then LinkedIn. I said that I wanted to manage myself. That is something that I am waiting until I launch to be able to do for reasons we discussed on the last podcast. I'm currently still working for my other job, so as of right now, my LinkedIn is still targeted to my patent law firm. But once that relationship ends, and we were just talking about probably sometime in the end of July, I will post, starting my own law firm, and from then on, I'm gonna be plan is to be pretty heavily active on LinkedIn, posting. I haven't got that far yet, but posting for my firm.
So the SEO, are you lumping the maps in with that too?
Yes. So it's so let me see. What do you mean by that exactly? We
kind of break those down as two different areas of focus or traffic channels. So we get, I can't remember the exact number, 35+% of all of our traffic comes from our map listings, which is our largest single source of traffic. And so we watch that very, very carefully. We measure it, all that stuff. And so that's a different strategy than just getting higher in the organic listings, which is a different part of the Google search results page, right?
Yeah, but am I correct that they're kind of related in a sense that
everything's related. Everything's related, but
right.
There's different strategies for getting higher in both of those. Sometimes they don't overlap all of it. Does that make sense?
It does.
So if Paul's helping you with SEO, does that also include your map getting high in the map rankings?
I believe so. So maybe you can help me out. I think I understand the SEO portion of it, which is pretty much, publishing relevant content and, drawing people into your website. So in terms of the maps, like what's different there? So I am working on getting reviews. I am working on, I have a good location. So as far as I knew, like those were kind of two of the more important factors. Like what else would you do to increase presence on the maps?
So my partner, Tony, this is his area of expertise. I'm kind of repeating you with what he shared with me as what we have done. The first one was what I already mentioned earlier, is make sure that your address is in all of the different directories exactly the same. So you can thousands of directories. Okay. Paul's probably working on that for you. The other one's reviews, which apparently you're doing that. So that's really, really good. Those reviews, are those coming from like friends and family just talking about you, or?
Yeah. So right now it's tough. And we were talking about this in the terms of like, in the first few months, I probably will need to run like local service ads or Google pay-per-click ads or something along those lines. But one of those factors is reviews. So even if I have payment for LSAs, it's hard to get visibility without reviews. So I am getting reviews currently, but it's hard because I haven't gotten any clients, right? It's kind of a chicken and egg type situation. But yeah, so right now my strategy is reaching out to people I've worked with in the past or close friends and family, and being careful, right? Nobody is saying Tom helped me with my divorce and did an awesome job, because I don't want to lie on Google, but I read Google's rules, and it's fair grounds to say, I've known Tom a long time. He's a great attorney and really knowledgeable and caring person. I would recommend him as if you need a divorce lawyer.
Yeah. Okay. And then, all right, so that's maps, that's SEO, that both of those are covered. The Facebook and Instagram profiles, are you planning on spending money there?
I think he's just setting up profiles, and then I think he's setting them up, and then I think the strategy is for me for me to kind of take over and post stuff there as I want. I don't know how heavily I will lean on social media. My initial thought is, other than LinkedIn, probably not that much. So I don't know. I haven't get that. That'll be more like a free time type of thing. But I think, SEO, maps, LinkedIn to an extent, and then kind of doing some like grassroots local marketing and just getting to know people and potential referral sources. I think those are my top three.
Okay. Do you anticipate spending any money on paid search, pay-per-click ads or anything?
In the beginning, yes. So I don't know how much. Off the top of my head, thinking $1,000 a month, but if it needs to be more in the beginning, it needs to be more, right? I would rather have a higher budget and be bringing in clients than, be sitting around having no clients.
Right. Okay.
So what do you have any thoughts on that in terms of?
My only thoughts are just make sure you stay focused on a few channels, stuff that you can execute. So if you're not doing anything yourself on SEO, like I wouldn't bother spending your time writing stuff that can be done far cheaper and probably better by someone else.
Right.
I would try to do the things that only you can do, which would be the networking part of things, and just doing the stuff you can do for free in the beginning just to get your name out there with the attorney bar in your area, especially those attorneys who don't have a practice that overlaps with yours, getting to know them.
Right.
That's where I would focus. I wouldn't worry about Facebook and Instagram. Those are all great platforms, but you can only do so much. And so if you try to do everything, you'll do nothing. So focus on just one or two things that you yourself are going to execute on. I like the idea of you spending money on ads to begin with, because those are what I call kind of direct response sort of stuff. You get a response right away, especially from respondents, because they've been served and now they need to do something. And then also dividing up your time with more of that long tail stuff, which is the networking, which is building your reputation, that sort of stuff that pays off over the long haul, kind of building your brand. So it's kind of like, it's not direct response. It's more long tail sort of stuff that takes a while for it to mature.
Right.
I don't have a whole lot to offer on LinkedIn. I've never looked at LinkedIn from our firm as a client attraction. It's just not something I've ever done, so I can't give you any practical advice there. But I know other attorneys who do it and do it really well.
Yeah,
you've seen them online as well. So,
yeah. Again, I don't think, that's not one of my primaries. I think I would lump that ahead of Facebook and Instagram for sure. But I think, like you mentioned, SEO. I guess I kind of had those as one, but maybe they're separate. SEO, maps, and kind of grassroots networking are going to be my top three.
Just for what this is worth, I know that Lee Rosen went back when he practiced. His firm is in North Carolina. I think he's got 3 or 4 locations. They're still out there, but someone else owns it now. But I know that they got a ton of traction off of networking with therapists, because not a lot of attorneys will build relationships with them, although they're great referral sources. And I know that he hired someone, at least for a while, to do full-time networking with therapists and counselors and pastors and people like that, are talking to folks that are thinking about going through a divorce, and even put on continuing education courses for them to get them together. So that was a really inexpensive from a standpoint of spending, but time intensive sort of activity. But I don't know your area. That could probably be an underutilized referral source.
Yeah, it could be. And at least in the beginning, for right now, time is something that I do have. That's definitely something I've considered. I guess I'm wondering, what value do I bring to a therapist other than, if I guess we're kind of back to the chicken and the egg problem, right? At some point, one of us has to be the first one to refer, right? Either a therapist has to refer the case to me, or I get someone coming in for a divorce who's having a lot of issues, and I say, have you considered counseling? I know this great therapist, right? That's what you had in mind?
I would never look at them as what can they do for me. I would go to them and say, what can I do for you? What kind of clients you want? And just worry about that. If you focus on that, good things will happen.
Yeah, so, but I don't have any. I don't have any clients to send them right away. So that's the problem, right? You
I don't know how you'd add value to them, but ask them what can I do to add value to you, and just focus on that. And it's your call on how you would execute there.
Yeah, there's a way to do it. I just haven't figured it out yet, but I'll get there.
Yeah.
Like I said, things are moving quicker than I anticipated. So.
Well, good. Anything else I can help you with here or talk about? Anything you want to mastermind through?
This is probably a really broad question. And this was something I discussed with Paul. So let's say I want to sign 4 clients a month, right? And let's say, so if I can figure out a closing rate and the amount of people visiting my website, I basically have the numbers I need, right? This is the amount of numbers, this is the amount of people I need visiting my website. So thinking backwards, if I want to, let's say I want to sign 4 people and my closing rate is, I'll say 50%, then probably, or 40%, probably not gonna be that high, but if it's 40%, then I need 10 consults a month. And if every one out of every 100 people that's visiting my site, hope I'm not butchering math here, but then I need 1,000 site visits that month. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are you asking me kind of how to look at the numbers and carve them up?
Yeah, I guess I'm just asking if that makes sense. And is that aspiration at this point like realistic?
It's really tough. Yeah, it's certainly realistic. Let me just kind of walk through the numbers with you. It's very tough from my standpoint to say if we get 1,000 visitors, then we're going to get 100 calls, or we're going to get 10 calls. It varies so much. You've got issues of robots that run your numbers up. You have all kinds of crawlers that are out there that run your numbers up. You don't know if they're true visitors or not, like human beings that have a family law issue. So I would probably start my measurement at what are the contacts? How many contacts am I getting? A phone call or a web lead? And then break your numbers down from there to understand how many of those that you need on a monthly basis in order to get a client out of it. Your numbers are going to be way different than our numbers, but one way you can maybe think about it from a standpoint of what you can expect. So if you get 100 calls in a given month, half of those are going to be not qualified calls, let's say. Okay, meaning they don't have the resources financially. They're calling about stuff that you don't do, or they're a marketer wanting to sell you something, or they're the wrong number or whatever. So all of that. So cut out 50% of those. Then 50% of those people that are somewhat qualified, meaning they have some sort of family matter that you could do. A good third of those won't have the resources. They're just had a bad weekend, and so they're just calling a lawyer just to see what it would look like. So that cuts it down from there. And then from there, you've got about half of those that are going to turn into an in-office consult for you, roughly speaking. And then about a third of those will probably retain you within 30 days. That would be, again, back of napkin. This is right off the top of my head. Just thinking through what we see. Those would be the numbers you can rely on.
Okay.
And then once you measure that every single week, right? Because over time, you're going to want to stabilize those numbers and figure out what your model is going to look like. And then you can scale off of that. But, I don't know how well you're going to close, how well you're going to do in the consult. I don't know what your follow-up process is going to look like just yet. You haven't built all that stuff yet. So that all factors in. I mean, the typical, what we call sales cycle is 27 days for us. And so from first contact to actual retaining is on average 27 days. Now you can kick out the outliers, and the number probably goes down closer to 21. But the outliers would be people that meet with us and then they retain us 3 years later. That always pulls our numbers up. Then you get those people who they were just served on yesterday and they're going to sign today on that consult, which is probably 15% of the people that come see us actually sign on that day. It's usually the next day or within that 3 weeks, the majority of them will come in.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess major things I need to figure out are my pricing. As you know, we talked about last time, I'm going to go with the fixed fee model, and I have a good idea of what your pricing looks like. And now I need to figure out, can I go a little bit lower? Because I am a solo that has very little overhead. And also I have the issue of, I don't have experience in this area. So what do I do when someone in a consult says, what are typical results for you when you see someone having this issue? And then I have to say, I don't have typical results. There's a better way to say that. But, do I just be honest up front and say, you're one of my first family law cases. I've done litigation before. I've been a lawyer for 8 years. I have plenty of resources at my disposal. But, there's, my pricing is a bit lower as long as you're understanding that I am, I'm fairly new to this process. And of course, I saw that better than I just did, but that's something to work on too. I don't plan
you're going to probably figure this out after your first couple of consults. You don't get those questions very often unless you invite them with how you look or how you present. And your confidence is going to mean everything to that person, and how you make them feel is going to mean way more than your success record and that sort of stuff. Of course, you have some clients are going to say, what's your win record? It's, you need to have an answer that addresses that, because it would probably go something like this. In family law, there are no winners. Every case is vastly different than every other case. It's not like a cookie cutter where everyone's exactly the same. And here's what you get with me, Miss Client. You're going to get someone who's going to return every one of your phone calls as quickly as I can. You're going to get someone who responds. You're going to get someone who fights for you. You're going to get someone who's going to tell you the truth, even if it's like hard to hear. You don't want to hear that. And you're going to get someone who's going to push your case through. And with me, because I do fixed fee, is I'm on the same side of the table with you. I'm not against you when it comes to fees. You're not paying me by the hour. So there's no conflict there of interest. We both want the same thing, and that is for you to be able to move on with your life and just handle those questions that way without saying, this is my first case. I wouldn't say it's my first case, because you probably get a lot of people who are like, well, this won't be with me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I love the way you just said that.
And in reality is most people, they don't even care about winning. They care about just being loved on and listened to and responded to, and all of those. It's 80% emotional. It really is. You just treat someone really with a lot of compassion, empathy. That's what they really want. That's what they want.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that draws me to this area, is I think a lot of people don't have that. And I think I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
If you have it, keep it, because as you get older, it's harder to maintain it, because you can get real jaded after you see a lot of these cases come through. But
yeah, I know there's a lot of burnout in family law, but I don't know. I don't know why. I think maybe it's arrogance right now, but I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen to me.
I don't think it's arrogance. You're quite humble, so you're starting off in the right place. Cool. All right, Tom. Let's go ahead and wrap it up for today, and let's plan another time to get together and kind of catch up where you're at.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Great talking to you.
Take care.
Bye.